Hello and welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. Today I come bearing more good news for the Second Amendment, and I can't wait to share this with you guys. In fact, I've been waiting all week for this Sunday video because any good news for the Second Amendment makes me excited, as it should you. And with the recent Bruen, New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen decision, there are lots of good things happening at the state and at the federal level. And so the article today is that a judge holds gun ban unconstitutional for felony defendants. And I think this is important. Before we get started, just want to shout out to all the 900 subscribers. We are almost to 1,000, and I appreciate you guys very much. All right, so this is important, and it's not just important for people under felony indictment. It's important that the Second Amendment is no longer being looked at as a second-class right. It is a God-given right for all of us that are born in the United States of America, as it should be. And the recent Bruen decision is confirming that right in case after case after case. So this is good stuff. So let's get started here. The title of the article is Judge Holds Gun Ban for Felony Defendants Unconstitutional. Pecos, Texas. A U.S. law banning those under felony indictments from buying guns is unconstitutional, a federal judge in West Texas ruled Monday. U.S. District Judge David Counts, whom then-President Donald Trump appointed to the federal bench, dismissed a federal indictment against Jose Gomez Quiros that had charged him under the federal ban. According to Counts' ruling, Quiros was under a state burglary indictment when he tried to buy a .22 caliber semi-automatic handgun and challenged the ensuing federal charge. In a 25-page opinion filed in Pecos, Texas, Counts acknowledged this case's real-world consequences. Certainly valid public policy and safety concerns exist. However, he said a Supreme Court ruling this summer in a challenge brought by the New York Rifle and Pistol Association framed those concerns solely as a historical analysis. And that's the thing, is that now under Bruen, they can no longer use a two-step process to decide if something is constitutional or not. It's basically text, history, and tradition now. And they don't balance public interest with it anymore, which is exactly what's going on here. Although not exhaustive, the court's historical survey finds little evidence that the federal ban, which prohibits those under felony indictment from obtaining a firearm, aligns with this nation's historical tradition. Hence, he ruled the ban unconstitutional, as the Second Amendment is not a second-class right. As noted in a 2008 Supreme Court ruling, no longer can courts balance away a constitutional right, Counts wrote. After the New York case, the government must prove that laws regulating conduct covered by the Second Amendment's plain text align with this nation's historical tradition. The government does not meet that burden. In the New York case, the High Court held by a 6-3 vote, with conservative justices forming the majority, that Americans have a right to carry firearms in public for self-defense. The June 23rd ruling, written by Justice Clarence Thomas, was seen then as likely to lead to more people being legally armed. A message to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Texas did not immediately return a message seeking comment. So, the reason why this is important, well, there are many reasons why this is important. I personally know people that have gotten in trouble when they were younger. And although this has to do specifically with felony indictments, in my opinion, it is important in a broader scheme, and hopefully changes will fall like dominoes because of rulings like this. So, if you're under indictment, you have not pled guilty, you have not, you're not a felon necessarily yet. And that's the thing. You should not lose any of your rights just because you have been accused of a crime. It is very easy to get an indictment on someone. And while many times, yes, they probably will end up being found guilty of something, while they're under indictment, before the court proceedings have finished, they are not guilty. And in this country, we are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And I know that these days it seems like a lot of things, especially like red flag laws and stuff like that, want people to be guilty until proven innocent. That is not the way that our court system was designed. We are innocent until proven guilty. And so if you're under indictment and they have found that you're not dangerous enough to keep locked up, if you're able to be out on bail, then now they're saying that you don't lose your rights to own a firearm or to be in possession of a firearm. Now, a lot of people, when you are out on bail, you have conditions of release generally. And with most felony charges, one of those conditions of release is that you can't be in possession of a firearm. That's the majority of them. So if that's one of your conditions of release, you still can't be in possession of a firearm. But just being under felony indictment, if that's not one of your conditions of release, does not mean that you can't be in possession of a firearm. I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but this is important. And what's more important is hopefully what's to come. Because, like I said, I know a lot of people personally that got in trouble when they were younger for non-violent felonies, drug charges, and then now they're happy, productive members of society as adults. And there is no reason that those people should not be able to defend themselves with the best possible tools for defending yourself and your family. Now, if you have violent felonies, that's one thing. If you have ever used a firearm to threaten a person or discharged a firearm at a person, then yeah, in those kind of cases, maybe you're a person that shouldn't have firearms. But if you are charged with a nonviolent felony, and even in my opinion, if you are convicted of a nonviolent felony, and you have paid your debt to society, you've done your jail time, your community service, you've paid your fines, you've gone through the whole ordeal, and you did everything right, and you came away from it a better person, then there is no reason why you should lose your Second Amendment rights. You don't lose your First Amendment rights, and you shouldn't lose your right to vote either. Taxation without representation. If you're a felon, I promise you're still paying taxes, but you're not allowed to vote. That is literally taxation without representation. And I think some of these things need to change because people do make mistakes, but people change. And the Second Amendment is a God-given right for all of us. It literally says shall not be infringed. And I know I bring this shall not be infringed up a lot, but it's an important thing. The government does not have the right to regulate the Second Amendment, although they have, and they do, quite a bit. But every one of those regulations, every single gun law that's on the books is technically unconstitutional. And I feel like under the Bruen decision, we're going to see more and more and more of these things because you can't balance public interest anymore. It's only text, tradition, and history, and not just our recent history. Our country, this goes back to when our country was founded. And in those days, they wanted everyone to be able to be armed, to be able to protect themselves from, general danger and violence, but also from an overreaching tyrannical government. And the more gun laws that we see on the books, the more we are going toward that overreaching tyrannical government. So it is important now more than almost ever that everyone has the right to own firearms, to possess firearms, to carry firearms for self-defense. This is an important right because this is what makes all of our other rights rights. Without the Second Amendment, without the right to defend ourselves against all enemies, foreign and domestic, we could lose every other right that we have. And so the Second Amendment is very important. And I believe it's not just important for those that kept their nose clean their whole lives, but also for those that have made mistakes, paid their debt to society, and are now productive, responsible members of society. There is no reason that those people should lose their rights to own and possess a firearm. I love firearms, and I think that everyone should have the right to be able to protect themselves. Now, if you have been shown to not be responsible enough to possess a firearm without threatening people, without hurting people, that's one thing. But those of us that have never been violent toward other people, especially with firearms, there is no reason why any of those people should lose their right to possess them. If you enjoyed this video, please drop me a like down below. Please subscribe to the channel. I am almost to 1,000 subscribers, and I really appreciate every one of you guys that has subscribed. Leave me a comment. What do you think about this? Do you believe, like I do, that the Second Amendment is an inalienable right for all of us? Or do you believe that, that there should be limits on it depending on a person's past and, what kinds of mistakes they've made? Please let me know. I'm from Sawtooth Tactical. Stay strapped or get clapped.